Thank you, Julian. Yeah. So Pan Peru originally was started in 2004 when we were all younger. I didn't found it. My mother started it like 17 years ago. I was like 9 or 8 or 7 at the time. Um, and for me at the beginning, it was hard because being a selfish kid, I really questioned her, like, why is she investing so much money in building a nonprofit? And why doesn't she use that for buying me instruments or video games or whatever? And she got rid of my PlayStation, by the way. And so uh, what I learned throughout my career these past 25 years is that if we help people reach their goals, it's going to be easier for you to reach your dreams because people love people that help them reach their accomplishments. And so it'll be easier for you to accomplish your goals. And so 2 years ago, I founded Pan Peru USA, which is the American chapter here. And what Pan Peru does, we do a multiple program. So the main thing that we do is we're empowering women in the mountains, our hometown, to become entrepreneurs. You can see the women on the left. And while $45 might not mean a lot for us, but it's 10% of their annual income. Minimum wage in Peru is about $200 a month, but that's in Lima. In the mountains, it's like half, right? So these women come from low income places and we're changing their mindset of it's a hobby to do crochet and knitting to it's a revenue stream. Another thing that Pan Peru does, Julian and Eli and everyone and Olivia, we do reforestation programs. We build computer labs and libraries. We've planted over more than 3,000 pine trees. And with the help of corporate foundations like Honda, Toyota, Lexus, we've provided ambulances for them during COVID. So it's a pretty diverse organization, and we're trying to help Pampas Grande and other villages to train and empower them to be leaders.
Yeah, I really love that concept, and thank you for all that you've done. I think it's a really amazing cause and definitely something that is inspiring for people across the globe. We had a question from one of our Spider Ventures exec members who could not make it tonight, and he wanted me to ask it for him. And that question was, how do you deal with the failure and insecurity when you're starting a new business? And what makes you decide to forget about the risk and just kind of go for it?
Yeah, good question. Insecurity, I don't really have much faith in me. I have faith in a greater purpose and something higher than me, because I think when there is faith, it casts out fear. And this is a deep question, actually, Eli. Thank you for talking about this. When I was in a panel in San Diego, they asked a panel of entrepreneurs, and I was there, and many people said they covered fear with like meditation and stuff. But for me, I love praying, in all honesty. I think it helps me realize that I'm not the micromanager of my life. And I think that's a good principle, because if you think you're the micromanager of your life, you're probably going to stress out and never sleep. And, by God's grace, I sleep really well and I exercise every day. And I love greens and salads. And then the other question, what was it?
So like when you're starting a new business, how do you kind of just alleviate the fear of the risks that you're taking and get yourself to get over that hump and just kind of go for it?
Yeah. So what I learned in school was risk mitigation. You do like the top 3 risks that are gonna probably kill your startup. What I've learned here in the Valley is number 1, team, number 2, money, and number 3, technology, right? So many startups fail because of teams, right? Like the startup is like a marriage, and it's hard because you see the persons the whole day, right? You see your co-founders and stuff. And I think for that, it's really important creating companies with people who share your common values. And that could be anything, right? I ask everyone here, like, what do you believe in? Like, do you believe in inclusion? Do you believe in equity? Like, do you believe money is your goal? Do you believe, I don't know, like you can have so many aspirations or idols or passions, right? So like my advice would be like start a company with someone that you very much have the same principles. And for me, like with Scholar and with Smiley Go and with Kingdom, the 3 startups that I was involved, all of them, I met them through church. So we clearly shared the same values, right? So that worked for me.
Yeah, that's good advice.
Awesome. Thank you, Pedro. I think it would also be interesting to go in detail on your experience giving TED Talks, because that's a really like rare thing people do. So let's hear about that.
Yeah. So I've been friends with Febin Bellamy. He's the CEO of Unsung Heroes. It's a pretty cool org. Check it out if you haven't. So he spoke at DC in 2016, and then he recommended me for 2017. And Georgetown is a beautiful school. It's close to U of R, and they have really good values too, which I can relate. And I remember I spoke next to Ahmed Ashkar, who's the CEO of Holt Price. I'm pretty sure you've heard of Holt Price, this like college entrepreneurship competition. And during this TED Talk, it was different because usually I'm used to speaking for like 45 minutes, but a TED Talk is usually 10. So at the beginning, I was nervous or a bit scared, but practice really helps you be more confident. And it's kind of interesting in all candidness, like for me at the beginning, I think I underrated how valuable a TED Talk was. But today when I meet with consulting clients, many of them are like, oh, I love your TED Talk. Like that's like the first thing they find on LinkedIn or Facebook or Instagram or whatever. So it's a really valuable business asset. And I'm happy to, if anyone has questions about it, to make introductions or something too.
So what did you speak about in your TED Talk?
I spoke about building relational bridges. So I spoke about how I met these Pampas Grande kids, and before they had a computer lab, they aspired to go into farming. Later, 3 years, they aspire to be engineers and build bridges to connect Pampas with the capital of the state, right? So that value of entrepreneurship, that's what I talked about. And it was super fun. Like, it was the first time I had translators at a speaking event. So they were like ASL, like Spanish. But now I'm super blessed that like just spoke at Stanford last week. They had like Spanish, I think Chinese too, which is pretty crazy. I just know like 3 words of Mandarin.
That is insane. I mean, wow. Getting to speak publicly at that kind of event, it feels like nothing else. So I can totally understand where you're coming from. And I think the fact of how impactful social impact and social entrepreneurship has been in your life is really important. I think one of our members has a question about that. So Alex, do you want to go ahead and ask your question?
Yeah. Hi, I'm Alex. It's nice to meet you. I can see that you've done such great work in your community, in your hometown, and honestly, in the country. And I can see how your passion flourishes through your principles, which you've talked about, and like your happiness. And I see your principles of godliness and stuff like that, and I relate to that extremely. I just love how you can find people around you who want to grow with you through helping others. And I feel like that's just an endless source of like happiness and fertility, and like your growth is exponential when you find people like that in your system. So I just want to hear what your thoughts are about how you can locate that when it's just under your nose or around you.
Thank you so much, Alex. And for sure, I would not be here without mentors. As I said, I was born and raised in Peru. I came to the US when I was 18. I think that's one of my biggest regrets is I wish I could have been grown up in Silicon Valley. I would have many more friends. But yeah, like for sure, like mentors and sponsors, like if I had no, sorry, I'm just getting more water. If I had no mentors, there was no way I was gonna, do the startup. No way I was gonna write a book. No way I was gonna get into venture investments, advisory board opportunities. And I highly encourage, and I question you, Olivia, Alex, Eli, like who are your your mentors today, and like how often do you see them? Because at least for me, if I had no mentors and no right people, I would just be probably back in Peru right now and just like having a 9-to-5 job, and which is not bad, but it's very different, right?
Great, thank you, Pedro. And moving on a little bit, I definitely want to talk about your novel, Differences That Make a Difference. So what went into the creation of it? Make sure you guys enter our raffle later on. But what went into the creation of it? Who were you able to meet, and what were those interactions like? And what was like your favorite interaction as well?
Interesting. And this has to do with answering to Alex's question too. Many of the CEOs we worked with in the book were because of my mentors, because of my sponsors. And I know that Spider Ventures has an amazing network. Julian was telling me like the co-founder or like vice president of Netflix is one of your mentors. So please leverage that in a smart way. And we can talk about this later, because all these people are busy, right? If you just ask someone randomly, can you be my mentor? It usually doesn't work, but you have to be strategic. So with the book, I wrote it because my mom is an engineer. My sister's a doctor, medical doctor. I was surrounded by powerful women, and that was the norm for me. But when I moved to San Francisco, that claims to be the most modern, innovative place on earth, I saw that there was a lack of representation. And so that inspired me to write a business book on the future of work. And that inspired me to write a business book on like the power of diversity, not only gender and ethnic, which are obvious, but like diversity of thought, diversity of experience. And I got to work with people like Judith Estrin in the middle. She was the CTO of Cisco, board member director at FedEx, Disney. She helped create the internet. So she's an internet pioneer. She's amazing. So same thing with like Michelle Lee, the first Asian American woman in US history to lead the US Patent and Trademark Office. She was the Undersecretary of Commerce for the entire country of the US. And same thing with Eric Schmidt and other leaders. Very inspiring, Julian, and humbling. And it just taught me the value of relationships, right? Because like if you have the right network, you can get so much done in a short amount of time.
Have you reconnected with any of these executives since?
Oh yeah, I love to bother people. I'm too loud. So I got like all their cell phones, and like whenever it's Christmas or Thanksgiving or their birthdays or anniversaries, I send them notes or actual letters or gifts. I think it's really important to value relationships, and I'm a nerd of relationship building. I just saw my mentor yesterday. He's the VMware CEO. VMware is part of Dell Computers. And I went to his house, played piano with him. And just those relationships, right? Like finding an excuse to see people and go for a walk with them, or when it's their birthday, just a simple text makes the difference.
That's really fantastic. I can't believe you send handmade letters to each of these people on their birthdays. I mean, I definitely would not have the persistence to do that once again.